got to say, before we even begin this review, that nothing about me playing Gran Turismo 7 makes any sense at all. Like a lot of you, I drive a real car in real life. So the last thing I want from a racing game is realism. Give me over-the-top speeds, unrealistic physics, nitro boost, power-ups, and insane drifting. These are the things that make racing exciting to me. Give me Ridge Racer, give me Burnout, hell, give me Mario Kart. Despite all of this though, when Gran Turismo 7 was announced for PlayStation VR2, somehow I knew that this was going to be something special. So what follows in this video isn't a comparison of GT7 to Assetto Corsa or iRacing. It's my story of how an arcade racing fan went from not caring about an entire genre of games to one game becoming a complete and total obsession. The developers over at Polyphony Digital must know that people like me find racing sims intimidating. So with GT7 they made this immensely deep racing game with layers of customization that you can get as technical as you want with, and then made all of that optional and gave the entire game a friendly coat of paint, equivalent to when bowling alleys put those big rubber bumpers in the gutters. See, when you first dive into Gran Turismo, you'll be presented with a world map that'll slowly populate with more and more locations to visit and races to race. But they keep things as simple as possible at first. So sticking with Gran Turismo tradition, your first stop will be to get a license. And this is where you get your first taste of the impending addiction. To get each license, you need to complete small tasks, some easy, some challenging, but all of them have bronze, silver, and gold rankings depending on your performance. And it's so easy to get wrapped up in these, trying to get a gold or beat your friends' times on every single one. But in doing so, you might drive yourself crazy. Once you get your first license, it's time to return to the world map, and the central hub here is a cafe with NPCs that talk to you, teach you about the history of different manufacturers, send you on challenges, and reward you with new cars after every couple races or so. Plus you'll get lottery tickets just for getting into the game every day and reaching some really super attainable milestones. You're constantly being rewarded for playing, and contrary to what you might have heard, you'll never need to spend any real-world money to pack your garage with hundreds of cars. And when none of the cars seem to be up to the task, you don't have to be some insane gearhead to get your car running faster. You simply head into the shop, buy some soft racing tires for traction, maybe some new brakes so that you can be a little looser with your timing, and a few other parts that'll raise the performance points of your car, and you'll generally have a huge advantage in the next few races. The Dark Souls of racing games. This is not. Okay, before the legions of GT7 fans get mad at me, let me qualify that statement. The Dark Souls of racing games this is not, unless you want it to be. See all these lines all over the road? Well, this one is telling me the best path around the track, making sure I'm where I need to be when I take every turn. And these horizontal red lines are telling me when to brake, and they'll disappear when I hit the right speed. Oh, and just to show you what an unapologetic noob I am, I'm racing with an automatic transmission and even some in-game traction assistance. What I'm trying to say is that I'm having a blast, but even 50 hours in, I've yet to take off my training wheels. Turning off each of these assists one by one will be a huge moment for me, a celebration as I slowly make my transition from reckless arcade racer to a restrained, calculated sim racer. Not that I don't love driving recklessly in GT7. But if you ever do get stuck or frustrated, there are plenty of other things to do to pass the time. There are tons of challenges and missions and license tests that'll reward you for completing them. And once you get about 2 hours into the campaign, you'll unlock multiplayer, where you can get in there with a full grid of your friends and determine every detail of the race. Weather, time of day, number of laps, maximum power of the car, whatever you want. So it's a great excuse to race the fastest car you have or your favorite car, or one of the most fun things you can do, just do a little go-kart racing. And with over 400 cars to unlock and more than 30 locations to race in, most with multiple track layouts, it feels like the game that keeps on giving. So far though, I'm sure this all sounds like a pretty standard game. Plenty of racing sims have tons of cars and great looking tracks. So then, what was it that propelled Gran Turismo 7 from just another game in a genre that I didn't care about to a full-on addiction? The answer is simple. The racing sims I've played before didn't make much sense to me. I was staring at a TV, using an analog stick, and cars weren't behaving the way I expected them to. It was hard to get a proper feel for them. All of that changed when I decided, despite my already cramped apartment, to buy a full-on racing rig comprised of an Anman simulator cockpit and a G29 racing wheel. The way the wheel pulls back and forth at high speeds and provides the proper resistance around every turn made me understand how these vehicles behave, and eventually, how to react properly. Having zero traction in rally races removed all of the resistance from my G29, but kept jostling in my hands to give the feeling of going over rugged terrain. It actually made me love these races for the first time in my life, even when playing on a flat-screen TV. But it's only when you add PlayStation VR2 to the mix that everything comes together in a way that I never thought possible. Interestingly enough, all the menus, cutscenes, everything but the races themselves are presented in flat screen, which had me maxing out my cinema screen size so that it felt like I was sitting in a movie theater between races. But seconds before the race begins, the VR view kicks in, and it's mind-blowing.
Holy sh**! Holy sh**!
Seeing the interior of your car spring to life and the scale of everything around you suddenly becoming life-size is VR magic and just never gets old. The view from inside the headset looks stunning, probably one of the best-looking VR games I've ever seen. Blasting around tracks at 150 miles an hour with rain hitting your windshield, or racing at night when the headlights of a car behind you illuminate your entire interior or blind you in your rearview mirror, well, these are the things that caused Gran Turismo 7 to quickly become a showpiece for your new PSVR2 headset that shows VR newcomers what immersion is all about. In fact, the combination of a racing rig and PSVR2 makes Gran Turismo 7 one of the most immersive games I've ever played. Every car reacts differently, every engine has a unique sound, and it's pretty easy to forget that you're in a game. My body leans into turns instinctually. I look at every driver as I pass them, and I'm constantly glancing at my rearview mirror to see if that car I just passed is off in the distance, or just waiting for the right moment to regain his lead. One of the more surprising things that VR brought to the table here, though, is just how close you can be to the pavement. With some of the more compact cars, Jeeps, or VW buses, you'll sit high up, but with some of the more high-performance vehicles, you sit so close to the ground that it feels like you can just reach out and touch it. Again, this is a sensation that only VR could make so impactful. And if you're a real car guy or gal, there's an exclusive VR showroom here that lets you check out every car from your garage or the lot, so you can examine them up close from every angle. Despite my insane love for this game, it's certainly not without its faults. Strangely, there's only one view in this game, so if you were hoping for a third-person mode, that just doesn't exist in VR. And while you can move your head quite a bit within the cockpit, occasionally I'll lean forward to look at a helicopter flying overhead, or move my whole body to adjust my position, and just for a split second, everything turns wireframe. It's so infrequent that it's barely worth mentioning, but if I was given just an extra inch or two of freedom, well, it would never happen at all. And finally, Gran Turismo 7 does require a persistent online connection to play, even when racing in single player. This is a problem with the video game industry as a whole, but it sucks to see it seeping into our little VR bubble. If you're familiar with Gran Turismo 7, then you know as well as I do that I've barely scratched the surface of the game in this review. You'll spend hundreds of hours, even after completing the campaign, with bonus challenges, extra menu books, the GT Sport mode that offers endless content with official online races, or simply grinding to save up for that one special vehicle you just need to have in your garage. But the purpose of this review wasn't to tell you every last detail about Gran Turismo 7. The purpose was to let you know that if you've always been intimidated by racing sims prior, that maybe you shouldn't be this time. That Gran Turismo 7 will hold your hand if you want it to, and that if you have a PlayStation VR2, this is the perfect showpiece for your new headset, and it's worth every penny of the $70 Sony is charging. These are the types of full-fledged games we've been asking for in VR. Just be warned though, because the second the VR mode kicks in and you find yourself sitting in the driver's seat, things might get a whole lot more expensive for you, as you find yourself on Amazon looking up prices for racing rigs.